Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, with none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Karl Bryan, at your service, not a real doctor. Carlos, welcome to the show.
Here we go. Shoots. How goes it, Road Dog? Doing good, bud?
Going wonderful, my friend. Listen, just in the pre-show, exclusively for Focus.com clients, you see what I did there? Real nice placement.
Nice.
We just had a gentleman talk about Overwhelm and how clients can get overwhelmed. And you made the comment of, well, typically that falls on the shoulders of the coach. Now, I know that you in Focus.com, you guys have been doing a ton of work because, listen, if it's one thing I know about the amount of materials and stuff that is available through your program at Focus.com, what do people always say? It's like drinking through a fire hose. I get completely overwhelmed. So you also have been guilty of this yourself. I was wondering if you could address that in terms of like, how do you deal with that? Like, how can you make, as you say, it's like eating that elephant, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's PC anymore, but bite-sized chunks. Like, how do you deal with that?
Manage. Well, okay. I'll tell you right now, literally before we started doing this, had an internal meeting with our folks, like, my staff. And what we've done is we've created individual tracks. First of all, Road Dog, you get, less is more, and you got to strip away some stuff, right? Reminds me, the old story of Buddha, right? And there's just like it's just mud all over Buddha. And then the guy goes, oh my, and then you chip it all away, and all of a sudden there's this beautiful gold Buddha, right? Well, they said, oh, how did you create this beautiful Buddha? Something to that effect. And it was like, well, didn't create Buddha. I just chipped away everything that wasn't Buddha. So there is an element of absolutely chipping away documents that might be a little bit old. Rather than let them fall to the bottom of a resource center, you got to kind of eliminate them, right? But what we've done is we've created tracks. So we have an onboarding advisor. We have, 3 of them. And then they have a specific track that they walk the clients through. And then there's a role play specialist, and then there's 3 levels. And then at level 1, you get 1 level of role play specialist, and you get level 2, and then you get level 3. But again, at the end of the day, it's a track. Then we've got lead generation, which is what we were going deep on today, but same thing. But the X factor, what I'm trying to bring across is by putting coaches in place and support in place, you really think about a business, management is borderline everything. Intentionality, actually, I would say would be everything, but you've got, you need to manage it. And the way that you're going to manage it is to collect some stats, hold them accountable to their own stats, and just have somebody there to guide, hold their hand. Because what's that saying? They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So having somebody there to support them, hold their hand, and guide them has gone a tremendous. We've seen this over the last 90 days, 6 months. It's gone a huge way in helping that overwhelm. So managing the individual as best you can is important, and that's what we've done. But we've created tracks for the whole thing. So depending upon where you're at, will depend on what track you're. And then we also have a track we have a lot of folks who build teams of coaches. Same thing. We've got a one-to-one coach. We've got a manager of the entire thing. Stats being compiled, and that's what we're doing. Shoot. So that's the answer. But truthfully, it's that balance, bud. It's the balance.
Hey, listen, can you just back away and stop making out with the microphone just a little bit? Like it sounds like you're half eating it. So there you go. Hey, when you talk role play, it's funny because like Hansi describes it very differently, what you call role play. Um, I just wanted to say it's funny. I was watching some Tony Robbins stuff last night, and two things that really stuck out for me. It's amazing how you can go back and watch like some of these videos that are so old, man. It's unreal, but still so relevant. Where he talks about you need to ensure that people feel progress, like just the importance of that alone. So obviously you've got that factored into your tracks, right? Where it's like
Yep.
they have this sense of I'm making progress.
Small wins.
A big part
Yep.
of it.
Small wins, small wins. You eat the elephant one bite at a time. You got to give them some small wins and then acknowledge them, by the way, right? A high five. But yeah, it's like back in the day, there was a study between Xerox, I believe it, yeah, Xerox, and they found that they had, say, like, they got salespeople ripping around. So they experimented with what do you call it? Like the threshold, that's the wrong word, but like the number of calls that they needed to make. So they had one group that needed to make 3 calls a day or 3 contacts a day. They had another group say that had to have 30 contacts a day, and then another one that had to have 100 contacts a day. Well, it was the group with the lowest number of required contacts per day who excelled the most. So if you look at it, what happened is that they accomplished their goal easily. Again, a small win, and they ended up doing significantly better. If I were to break that down for a coach or to coach a client, what you got to do, like everybody's got a to-do list, right? Like Road Dog, you got your to-do list for today. I've got mine and they've got theirs. Nobody's getting through their to-do list. You've got to go through the to-do list and find, just call it the 3 most impactful things that you need to get done and get those done first. And then what will happen is not only will you get those 3 things done, but you'll end up knocking over significantly more throughout the day because you'll get a little bit of what's called momentum. Momentum's a force multiplier for business. Which would small win would be momentum. So
It's interesting when you say small wins. I just see you standing on a podium accepting an award. So good. I'm on fire today, Shoots.
You are on fire. Shoot.
Like, it's clarity of my mind right now is next level. So just be aware. Anywho, all right. Oh God, this is gonna be a rabbit hole and a half. Okay. Here's the deal, bud. So we had a client. This is about software. So I got to caution everybody. Carl's been like waist deep, so like ankle deep for me in software for the past. Well, how many years have you been focused on just this group coaching software alone? Shoots, it's crazy. But the question here is, my coaching client is looking to build software. Any tips? Now this should be gold, 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 because I am sure you have made your fair share of mistakes and have got your learning points. But what tips would you give somebody that's looking to build out some software?
What would I say? Look, and then again, agreed. Like in that, look, ask yourself: is there any money in what's easy to do? And what I mean by that, you could start something simple, and then you could start something hard. Software. I don't think you need to have built software to know that is a slippery slope. But again, is there any money in what's easy? And I don't mean simple, by the way, because complicated business model doesn't scale, right? So what do they say? Simple scales, complexity fails, right? So I wrote a popular email / blog recently, and it's like, if something is easy and makes money right away, then it's going to be duplicated easily, right? And then if something's duplicated easily, uncommitted idiots looking for a quick buck are going to be coming, right? And then uncommitted idiots looking for a quick buck are coming, then you're going to have lots of competition, right? And then if you have lots of competition, that means you won't be able to exit because they'll just why? Because they'll just copy you instead because it's easy, right? So, and plus you'd get like a poor valuation, which means it's not valuable. You're not going to be able to exit, and you're not going to be able to scale, right? Again, it's easy, but on the other hand, a complicated business that doesn't make money right away is difficult to start. Right? If it's difficult to start without easy money to get it going, or what we'd call bootstrapping it, uncommitted, get rich quick types are going to stay away. And then if those guys stay away, guess what? You're probably going to have less competition, and it's going to take them longer to try catch up, right? And then if you got less competition, you're going to get a higher valuation. It's going to be exitable, and it will be exitable at a higher multiple because, again, it's complicated, right? Like they're not going to be able to just copy it. So that's why software, in my opinion, is a great business, and frankly, why we went into it. But my advice: make sure they've got twice as much money available as what they assume. And it's probably going to take three times as long. Like you mentioned, group coaching software. We've been building that out for, I'm going to say 2 years, like 18 months, kind of like flat out. And it's over $1 million sunk just in, that's a very small piece of the software, but $1 million sunk into that, plus. So and it, conveniently took longer, more complicated, etc. Right? So so if they were going to build out software, depending upon, talents and where they're at in their market, but like consider selling users into it as soon as possible so that you're actually building it, with clients. So you're not just building things that you think are going to work well. You're going to be building things like the feedback that we have got on the group coaching software and the digital acceleration software, etc., just blow you away, right? So we've had like PAS, like profit acceleration software. I'm going to say that it's 8 years old, but again, if you looked at it 8 years ago and you look at it today, I mean, it's absolutely positively non-recognizable. And a lot of our clients have been around that long, and they would say exactly that, right? So that's, like building it with clients. I think that's, talk about a force multiplier, like that would, that's not always possible, of course, and you got to be careful that you're not giving your client something that doesn't work, because then that's going to backfire for obvious reasons. But, and make sure you're looking after your software guys. Like again, we've got one of our software guys, like the lead developer, he's over 8 years, he's vested, he's, small percentage over an 8-year period. So that's mission critical. Road Dog, I'd say it's also look at, okay, there's a toothbrush test. We've covered this in different podcasts, but like the toothbrush test is what Google calls it, where they don't work on anything you don't use twice a day or more, right? So look at like Google Maps. If you're driving around all day, how often would you pull up Google Maps? And the answer is certainly twice a day, if not significantly more. Think of your Google Calendar. If you use that, how many times a day do you use it, right? Email, again, Gmail, they went into that. Not only do you use that more than twice a day, I mean, a lot of people literally use it all day. YouTube, same thing. Would you go back on different days and use YouTube a couple of times? Again, it's the second biggest search engine in the world. Google Docs, again, if you're creating a lot of documents with your staff, back and forth. That's it. So does it pass the toothbrush test? Are they using it on an ongoing basis? So what we've built recently is called a coaching portal. So that's, imagine Road Dog, you got your client, and it's like you ask him a question, he gives you an answer. You guys share documents back and forth. You want to be able to go, let's say you have a client and you want to look back to a conversation that you had 6 months ago, 9 months ago, 18 months ago, easily go in and search this guy's account. So we built a coaching portal where basically everything that you would go through with the client, including correspondence and shared files and statistics and the questions that we would ask, and then, of course, the capturing of the answer to those questions. So you could revisit it next week prior to the call for 5 minutes before getting started. So we built that. And again, that passes the toothbrush test by a lot. Otherwise, again, you end up building a software tool, which is cool, but the toothbrush test has got an enormous amount of power. And then thinking about also your coaching with your client, like how can you make yourself what my mentor would refer to as a plug, right? So something that's difficult to do without. But Road Dog, like it's funny because you got to open this up with slippery slope, but it's you're best positioned to coach the person that you used to be, right? So like translation, where were you 5 years ago, 10 years ago? And then dial in on that and find that guy or that gal to coach, and you're going to excel wildly. Like you got to, you're a really good salesperson, a little bit disorganized with a little bit of, entrepreneurial ADD where you fall into the, too many ideas, too many ideas and not enough implementation. And then you've combated that and you're 5 years down the track and you understand the importance of management, accountability, tracking, statistics, etc. That would be a really good client for you to coach. So again, like somebody who was going to be, starting up a software project, is just I could, that would just, falling off a log. Like here are the things you got to watch for. So forget me, you, where were you 5 years ago? And like that individual will be a fantastic coaching client for you. So there you go, Shoots. That's what I would say, bud.
All right then. There you go. Sounds like there's been a kind of really exciting changes happening inside of the software. I'll have to, at some point, I need to get back in there and check all that stuff out. That sounds really good, man. Listen, we got a question. I didn't catch this email, but it's in regards, I guess you had a take on hypnosis and sales in one of your daily emails. I don't know how I missed that because hypnosis is like magic, and you and I both are like magic nerds, which is, by the way, folks, seriously, like that is the way to our hearts is through magic. That is a fact. And did I tell you who I saw when I was in Vegas? Shoots? Did I tell you this? It was Shin Lim. You know who that is?
No. Is that the from America's Got Talent?
That's the dude that won that, and he won the Penn and Teller, beat them twice actually.
Really?
Oh my God, this guy is insane, and he's got just an unbelievable story. So good. Anyways, happening at, I believe, where was it? The Mirage. Really good show. Anywho, speaking of magic, you see how easily we get distracted with magic shoots? Like this guy, and he had to get surgery, I think, on his thumbs and stuff. So he was basically told he would never be able to do magic again, but he overcame the odds. It was just, dude's unreal. And
nice.
Born in Vancouver. So there you go. Anyways, hypnosis and sales. You mentioned that in your daily email. Can you just sort of explain how you do that with clients? Like, I guess, ethically, of course, to get a client. You're not going to literally hypnotize them to take out their credit card because that would be very wrong, folks. But can you talk about that for a second?
Road Dog, you're getting sleepy. Road Dog, you're getting sleepy.
Carl, you got so tall. What happened?
You see, it worked. There you go, Shoots. Well done. Boom. Okay, so I wrote an email. I'll tell you, like back in the day, and again, well over a decade ago, I used to close $100,000, $500,000 coaching clients, and that's not some wild exaggeration. Absolutely got it. For coaching arrangements, and what I would do is I'd create a little bit of a pre-frame, really what probably an open loop would be a better way of describing it, but I basically had clients all but close themselves, right? So I don't know that it was hypnosis, but absolutely has, parallels. In fact, and again, I've had a couple of the most famous hypnotists as clients, and one had the longest running adult hypnosis show of all time in Vegas, and Marshall Silver is also a longtime client and a friend. But anyway, so look, am I saying that right? A hypnosist can get you to do most anything, and what they do is they use like factual statements, right? So they tell you something that is true, leading and pacing with that, and then they follow it up with what they want the prospect to do or believe, right? So like an example would be, Road Dog, you hear the sound of my voice speaking to you, and you're sitting on a chair. You can feel the palms of your hands resting on your thighs. You can feel the soles of your feet against the floor. When you look in this direction, you can see the light of a candle, and as you do, you start to fall into a deep, deep state of relaxation, right? So like basically the first few sentences are simple, undeniable, hard facts, truths. And then the last statement as you do, you start to fall into a deep state of relaxation is a direct suggestion, right? So next thing you know, your prospect is hypnotized. Have you ever seen this done? And I have been hypnotized at that adult show, by the way. And oh my God, was it funny? My wife, she needed almost she to say she laughed pretty hard would be understatement of the year. But anywho, so if you were selling coaching, how could you do this to a similar effect? Again, be careful with this because you don't want to look like a cheese ball, right? But and then maybe the first time to do it would not be in front of a really really high end client, just in case it doesn't go so well. But as you look at my profit acceleration roadmap, there's 12 key areas on the profit acceleration roadmap, right? So as you look at my profit acceleration roadmap and you see 12 key areas of your business, you can see none of those 12 areas has a larger than 5% increase. My profit acceleration software found you 94% compounding increase, which totals 215,000 of profits for you this year. As you acknowledge the incredible effects of my profit acceleration software, your only question is, when can we get started? And I feel like as I say that, you're like, oh my gosh, first of all, could I ever memorize that? And it's like, so all I did is you just make 4 true statements, right? Like whatever the color, you see that the color of the wall is blue, right? Which that wouldn't work quite as well as the example that I gave you, but you use, 4 true statements, and then you direct them towards where you wanted them to go, right? And again, your only question is, when can you get started? Be very surprised if you said that to somebody, what the reaction could be. So maybe play with that a little bit. Again, I would caution you from just going all in and say, oh my gosh, this is the secret, because this takes, you can imagine a hypnotist doesn't go in front of a room of 1,000 people and all of a sudden hypnotizing people, right? You do it in a very small group and then you get a little bit better. But I can tell you that is about, if you've ever seen that show and you just think, oh my gosh, I can never do that. Well, I can tell you that it is significantly easier than what you probably think, right? And then there was another consistency. So this was to do with my daily email. And you've got your conscious mind and then your subconscious mind. And what I was saying is that you probably, some people like them and some people hate them, and that's fine, right? But you like my tips, you like the tactics, maybe you like the jokes, maybe you like the fact that I'm a little bit politically incorrect, but that's your conscious mind. But your subconscious mind is attracted to the consistency, because every day I'm there, good day, bad day, rain, shine, holiday, no holiday, summer, winter, doesn't matter. My email is coming thick and fast at approximately the exact same time every single day, right? That consistency, and I've often talked about that on social, right? You want to do well on social media, you've got to be consistent. So if you're there one day and then not there for another month, and then you're there 3 days in a row, and then you take 2 weeks off, and then your clients on a subconscious level, by the way, this could work the opposite. Another thing that we've talked about in the past, the people who buy from you off social, and again, in some cases, your email list, it's the lurkers, not the ones when you go and put up a post and you get 86 comments. A lot of the time, it's the people that leave the comments that will never buy from you. And it's the people that are watching and don't share, don't comment, but they're always watching, right? And the algorithm is recognizing this. And then again, putting your content in front of that individual, whether they like it, comment it on, share it or not, but they can tell how long that if you're actually reading a post. So the lurkers with their subconscious mind, not necessarily, I highly doubt their conscious mind is looking for this, but it's their subconscious mind that goes, this might be the right person for me to follow. And so I think that there's a little bit of magic in that. And again, that is that hypnosis. It's at your subconscious mind, right? Which is there, actually, no, it's yours, but it's their subconscious mind looking at you, it's, you ever spoken to somebody and they just have this groundedness? Like think of your grandfather, right? And they're just from a place of love and I think I couldn't word it any better than just a groundedness about them, right? Well, your body, so when you sit with somebody, what do they say? 7% of your communication is verbal, and then the rest is, body language and tonality and speed and et cetera, et cetera. Your grandfather has got a groundedness. You want to try and achieve that groundedness with your prospects, with your clients, with your kids for sure, but people that you want to influence. And again, and it's not their conscious mind that will see your groundedness. It's their subconscious mind that they just feel a level of confidence and, comfort in your presence, and that can work really, really well, but that's only going to come with some experience. But yeah, the consistency and the groundedness of that is very important. So even Road Dog, you read somebody's, like, again on social, and it's just too obvious this person's trying to sell a little too hard, or you read an email and again the person's trying to sell a little bit too much, doesn't, and then the opposite happens, and that's the person you're more attracted to. But the bottom line, consistency, Road Dog, is what I want to bring across, and that is super important in my experience of watching people, is that they're not very consistent, and that's a bad thing. So work on that is what I said in the email. What do you think? There you go.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Consistency. Okay. I guess if I'm looking at this, like, can you give us some hard examples? Like you're talking leverage and stuff as well, right? Like when assessing a new business opportunity, right? Like I'm scrambly here. Like when you're looking at a new business opportunity, what would you consider to be the most important factors to move forward? Like, does that make sense, or is that too general? You want me to?
No, I think, and you start look fundamentals. I mean, that's a 101. Nobody knows that better than you, right? You want to help a business owner and you want them to crush it, whether, fundamental, whether they're highly experienced in doing, 1 million, 5 million, 10 million a year, or just getting up off the ground. I mean, fundamentals, it's obvious. The size of the opportunity is something, like you could have gone into crypto 3 years ago and been the worst operator in the world, and we've all seen some of those guys, and absolutely crushed it, or gone into cannabis, right? Like, cannabis became legal in Canada not that long ago, right? Well, if you were Johnny on the spot and ready to go, again, you could be the worst operator in the world and probably do really, really well. So that Warren Buffett would describe that as, it's not how fast you row, it's the boat that you're in, right? So like anti-aging is something that we've talked about. Again, is the population getting older? It's a data thing, right? It's 100% undeniable that we have an aging population. So therefore, going into anti-aging, if you did it properly, you'd have more and more clients every single year, right? Social networks, again, if you went and you built something to, like, is Elon Musk going to buy Twitter, or is he going to go and build a rival to Twitter, or maybe he's just going to exit entirely? My opinion is, and I said this a while ago, but I think that whole Twitter thing might be his undoing. Shall see, but I don't think he's overly pleased at the moment with the way it's all going. But the bottom line is, will he go and build a competitor to Twitter, which is, got to be, if you're going to, what was he going to spend, whatever insane number of billions of dollars to buy it? Surely he could go start his own. And of course, it's going to take a while to get some steam, to be a much better idea to buy Twitter if it was on, for the right price, et cetera, et cetera. But if you started a social network and you got any kind of traction, like just TikTok is now like the most popular website on the internet over Google, which just blows my mind. But at the end of the day, it's a social network, right? Metaverse, and like the metaverse, that might, if you believe that the metaverse is going to become absolutely massive and we're all going to be living in this, virtual world in the not too distant future, and Zuckerberg apparently thinks it's a pretty good idea, I would say that this would be a bad idea, because I think we're 5, 7, we're a number of years off that being a major play. But that being said, if you were there at the right time, you'd be looking pretty good. And Zuckerberg knows that he's way early, but he's positioning himself so that when it does crack, he's going to be Johnny on the spot and he's going to look like a genius. And it might be the opposite. And the stock market would reflect that not everybody's on board with this whole metaverse play. But anyway, so gamification, again, I see a massive trend towards that, like Robinhood. If you follow that, which I vehemently oppose the way that they've gone about doing it. But what they do is they're making it really sexy and fun to make trades in stocks, basically, right? Ding, 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 like a slot machine. And if you followed it, a little bit of whatever out there. But gamification, if you could gamify some of what you're doing, help others gamify, like, you know what I mean? So these what business opportunities, how I'm assessing it, it's like esports. Again, do you see esports becoming bigger or smaller? I mean, I don't know, but I'd say that there's a massive trend towards it. I know that, Magic Johnson and Tony Robbins and so many heavyweights are in that world. If I'm a business coach and I'm looking for some clients to coach, I'm not just looking at the business and the personality profile of the guy or the gal running it. I'm looking at the industry, the boat is what Warren Buffett would say, and I'm using that to assess part of the niche or the client that I'm going towards. Maybe on a lower level, think Kelowna, right? Like, we live in a city where there's 250,000 people, and it's a beautiful place with lake, mountains. In the summer, the population, it multiplies by 10. In the summer, not so exciting, but there's still plenty of people in the winter, by the way, because there's lots of great skiing. But at the end of the day, if you agree with what I would say, and that's that the population's at 250,000 roughly, and it's going to 1 million, well, there's an enormous amount. Like, there's some very obvious things that are going to happen in and around real estate where you could do really well in Kelowna, right? So, like the gold rush days back in the 1800s, who made all the money in the 1800s? Was it the guys panning for gold, or was it the guys selling them the pans and selling them the shovels? And no doubt a few guys panning for gold crushed it, and there was some anomalies and some big winners. But I'll tell you, the guys selling the shovels killed it, made less than the guys who really killed it with the gold, but what they had is more of a guaranteed return. So if you were in a city that was going to grow from 250,000 to 1 million, you could go and sell real estate and you could do well. But if you've ever heard my take on that, I wouldn't wish that on your worst nightmare, like to go become a realtor. I would not do that. No recurring revenue. Yes, you can make some good money, but there's no recurring revenue. People literally forget the name of their realtor, a couple years after buying the house. So you're always fishing. But what about like a fencing company? What about like a landscaping company? What about there's lots of pools where we live. What about servicing swimming pools? Like, if it's going to grow from 250,000 to 1 million, can you see how a lot of those businesses are going to naturally do really well? So I don't know. These are some of the things I'd be looking at. Recurring revenue, recurring sales, kind of what I just said a minute ago. But like, I would start a cleaning company or a pool maintenance company, right, where I came and I opened pools, closed pools, and then sold you chlorine, etc., for your hot tub and your pool, long before I'd go into something without recurring revenue. Just it's a fundamental principle that I'd have to have. Gross profit margin, we talked about that to death. But again, like, how much does it cost to take on a new client? How much does it cost to sell? Just the bottom line is that, like, you got to understand your margins, and specifically gross profit margin. Because if you don't have a healthy gross profit margin, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Example of that, just to make it in layman's terms, if you owned a restaurant, you've got, say you got 10 dishes, and then one's lobster, and then one's macaroni and cheese. The price of macaroni and cheese is not going to fluctuate, so you can set your price and then just live with it. Lobster, in and out of season, what does it do? It goes up dramatically and goes down a fair bit, right? Depending upon the time of year. Well, that's why when you walk into a restaurant, it won't have a price. It often says market price as opposed to a price for lobster or crab, right? That's why gross profit margin. Because if you just set a price, you could end up losing money on that individual dish, or breaking even, or making a really small margin And what is the point of having your most expensive, when somebody comes in and buys lobster, I'll give you the red hot tip. They're not price shopping, right? Just whatever the price is, the price that they're going to pay. And if it's an extra 10, 20 bucks or whatever, or more, it's just, that's probably not what's going to be decided. If they want lobster, they're going to buy lobster. Make sure you got a healthy gross profit margin on that individual dish, right? That sits in front of the individual. So without going through all that, I've talked about that to death, but this is important, Road Dog. Leverage for sure. Like there are 5 types of leverage: people, money, software, marketing, and knowledge. I would make sure that I've got leverage, hardcore. I'd also debate, Road Dog, I don't know what you think about that, but like emotions could be leveraged, like fear. I've often talked, like if you introduce me to a professional hockey player, I'll show you somebody who was like scared to lose more than love to win. So you could leverage fear. And I know that in my own personal entrepreneurial journey, I have absolutely done that. It's like you fight, like there's fight or flight, right? But like, again, you gotta make sure you're doing it at the right time, and you're not allowing that to make you. The worst bit there is standing still, right? If your emotions, make you pause, we've got some issues, and you're not leveraging them. You're doing the exact opposite. It gets fun. Like people will leverage time, Road Dog, right? Like where they'll pay somebody else to do something, right? So let's just say that you're doing sales in your company, and then you hire a salesperson, right? Which may be a fantastic idea. It might be a horrific idea, by the way. But you hire a salesperson. Now, in order to properly, so you're leveraging people, right? 5 type, people, money, marketing, software, knowledge, right? Like people, you're leveraging a person. If you're hiring somebody, pay them, 15, 20 bucks an hour, whatever, whatever you pay them, right? And then the goal is to make money off that individual. But my question is now, what are you doing with your time when this guy's selling? What are you doing, in your 10-hour day? And you need to get him to sell, and then you need to do a higher value activity while he's selling in order to actually get the benefit of the leverage. I hope that's dropping for everybody. It's very important, right? Like you're going to leverage people. The question is, okay, a very important part of that is what you are now doing. Otherwise, you should have just stayed in sales, because that guy's not going to make as many sales as you, or I'd be surprised, right? So, make sure you're looking for higher leverage opportunities is kind of the moral of that story. So that's what I'd say. Shoots, what do you think?
You know what I'd be doing with the extra time? I'd be dusting off your Sea-Doo. That's what I'd be doing, bud. 100%. Put that thing in the lake. It's embarrassing. Listen, by the way, you mentioned the Gold Rush stuff, dude. Did the series Gold Gold Trails and Ghost Towns ever make it to Calgary? That was a local Kelowna show that was with the late Bill Barley. Dude, I love that era. That whole Gold Rush era. It's you're learning lots about the Road Dog today, bud. That was I love that stuff. Love it.
There we go. Anyway, Gold Rush,
dude. That whole prospector era was just it was just unbelievable, right? Like as everybody's just chasing it. It's no different now, right? Like what's the latest gold rush? Like when you just look at it that way, right? Now it's crypto. Everybody thinks they're like, what can you sell to the crypto people? Right? Because they all think they're going to become cajillionaires by really not doing anything. It's amazing to me. It's truly amazing. I'm going to buy something that has no backing or guarantees of absolutely anything, but I'm going to become rich. All right. Now that we're all clear on where Road Dog stands on crypto and selling air, can you give us some examples of leverage being used, like actual real life examples?
Yeah. Okay. Good point. So people, money, software, marketing, no doubt there's other examples. These are the ones that I would look at. Like people, I just gave you one. You hire a sales guy, and then you pay him, and presumably, again, you pay him 20 bucks an hour, 50 bucks an hour. It doesn't matter, right? Like I'm not debating what you're going to pay your sales guy. What we are doing is we're going to hire a sales guy so that you don't do sales, and presumably you can make more money. But what I just said is so important. If you are not doing higher leveraged, higher value activities during that time, then you're actually going backwards. Seen that a lot. So anyway, so that would be an example of people hiring people. Money, Road Dog, we find an apartment building and, it's worth whatever it's worth. Let's just call it $1 million for simple math. We got to find a way to come up with 200 grand. But now we get $800,000 of, magic there. So you buy so you put down 200 grand, but you get an asset worth $1 million that you could, fill with, tenants, and then you could go in and do a lipstick job and, put in new windows, put in new doors. Whenever you buy a piece of real estate, try put in a room and a toilet, right? You'll immediately increase the value of that property. But the bottom line is that we borrowed somebody's money. We could borrow the 200 grand, buy the $1 million asset, improve it, go back to the bank, have it revaluated, and then get our money back, the 200 grand, go back to the guy who we borrowed it from, pay him 10% or whatever we had agreed on. And now we've got this asset with effectively no money down in semi-record time, not too long. The bottom line is that if I borrow your money, pay you 10%, and then I do much better than that, that would be an example of using other people's money, which is what most people think of when they think of leverage, but don't know if that's such a great idea. Software, I think like this podcast, okay, so we're going to go and put this on, iTunes, or we're going to put it on Spotify, or we're going to put it on YouTube, and then one audio recording could get as many downloads as we want, because it's just, there's no extra, to put it on Spotify and to put it here, there, and everywhere. It's not going to cost us any extra, right? CRM software would be a better example of that, where you've got a database of 1, you got a database of 100, you got a database of 1,000, or you got a database of 100,000. Does it cost you any more to have 100,000 people versus 1,000 people? And of course, if you're sending out emails regularly, the answer is yes. But if you know what you're doing, it's going to be negligible, and there'll be a massive amount of leverage there. Where again, you could have software and put one person or 100,000. Marketing, same thing. You could do a direct mail piece, and you could spend $10,000, and you could make 0. You could make your 10,000 back, or you can make 100,000 with the exact same piece. But if you know how to craft a headline, you know how to craft an offer, you know how to educate, etc., you could really leverage marketing. I'd imagine everybody listening to this understands that one. But it's a bit like, again, you go to YouTube, and you could put, your video up, and they could watch it one time, or they could watch it 1 million times. You could make 1 sale, no sale, 100 sales, or 1 million sales. It's not really going to cost you any extra, because the cost of the marketing was already done. So it's you're high leveraged opportunity marketing, if you know what you're doing. Knowledge, again, I don't know that you normally would hear this bundled in with leverage, but I got to tell you that I believe that the ultimate leverage you got is, think, compounding. Where when I learned, if you've got a solid foundation, one small little tweak, like Warren, I've talked about this a lot in the last little while, but Warren Buffett spends 80% of his time reading. So why? And he doesn't need to learn the fundamentals at a higher level. Let's face it. The guy's got it in spades. What he's looking for is an insight. One little tweak, one little tweak, one little tweak, one little tweak. And that tweak can bring such a profound have such a profound impact on a business, on an opportunity, on an existing business, on an existing opportunity, on an existing marketing program, on an existing software, etc. So your knowledge is where you can really get leverage. If you build your knowledge on a really sound foundation, and then you get one new insight, it can really move the needle. Like, we got a buddy, Beebs, right? He's got a trucking company, and then I'm talking to him, and it's like, if I owned a trucking company and I had 10 trucks running around, the real money is in the software behind the trucking company, right? Like, Amazon's gone into the transportation courier business, right? To make sure they get their units out quicker. Well, I haven't spent 5 seconds looking at it, but it is 100% a software play over a courier play, if that makes sense. Like the software behind it will be so good and so amazing that it's going to be killer. So, but then the problem though with the trucking industry is what? And I talked to him about this, like it's staff. Same if you owned a concrete company. Your problem is not growing. You could grow it. What we just described, right, Road Dog? Kelowna, it's got 250,000 people. There will be 1 million people. There's going to be a lot of concrete poured. You could absolutely kill it if you started a good concrete company, or I would say so, right? You got skills and you know that space. The problem that you're going to have, the insight, second, third, fourth order consequence, is as you grow, you're going to struggle with staff because the quality of the individual who's going to drive a concrete truck is not that high. And he's probably going to be hungover. He's going to be drunk. He's probably going to make some mistakes. He might have a drug problem. He might have, kids and all. I don't know. You know what I mean? And maybe I'm wrong, right? But I'll tell you, if I started a concrete company, I know that I'd be looking straight at staff as the threat to growth. The same way cleaning company. I've talked about my neighbor. They've got a multi-million-dollar cleaning company, but they have got mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, son, daughter, and a couple other relatives that work in it. So it's a family business, and then they've all adopted it. And they're not, look, do they love the cleaning industry? I don't know, but I'll tell you that it's built them one very impressive cleaning company, and they do a darn good job. I call the guy the Prince. He's a very cool guy. But anyway, so there you go. But if you take the family members out, would they have done the same thing? And I would dare say not. Would have been significantly more difficult. So they would have struggled to leverage people the way they have, but they've done well because they've got, it's a full blown family business. So Road Dog, yeah, those would be some examples. Was that what you're looking for? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's funny you say struggling to manage people. I struggle just to manage you to keep you on time with the podcast, which is truly amazing. So in 10 words or less, close us out with giving our listeners one thing that they can implement and start doing from today's podcast. And I'm counting.
10 words or less, Shoots. You know what? It's I've already gone over. I think that the leverage thing, like where, okay, you're going to hire somebody to do what you're doing, and your client is going to hire somebody to do what they were doing. What are they doing while that person is doing that thing? I think that is an insight. I think that Warren Buffett, when he would have discovered that long, long ago, but when he did, he would have referred to that as something powerful. And we got to make sure that is a higher leveraged opportunity than the one that they are foregoing. Otherwise, they should just damn well stay in sales. So there you go, Shoots. That's my answer. What do you think?
On point. Love it. Listen, everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man on top of the hill, King Karl. And if you're not on the inside getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or you just want more information on how to build your coaching company, or of all this great software that Karl is building inside of focus.com, go there and check that out and subscribe today. If you enjoyed the podcast, of course, please share with a fellow friend or coach. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate if you'd rate the episode, leave a review, do all the things that we need to do to move up in the rankings, just because that makes Karl feel taller. And that's it for another week, everybody. Remember, progress equals happiness. We'll see you next time, folks.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.